After the storm, I found him, a drenched stranger drifting in my pool. In that moment, I wished I'd never welcomed him inside my home. Even as a child, I was captivated by the strange gifts the sea brought ashore. Every summer at my Grammy's weathered beach house, a relic perched on the edge of the shore, I would wander barefoot around the water's edge. In Florida, the storms never ended. Each tempest brought a peculiar mix of debris and creatures that transformed our pool into a miniature ocean. I remember the thrill of discovering life among the broken branches and seaweed. Once, as I knelt at the water's edge with my dollar store net, a sudden ripple made me jump back. I expected a sea creature to emerge from the murk. Instead, it was only an old plank of wood. But then the water burst upward, drenching me, and for one fleeting moment, I believed I'd caught fish. That was when laughter echoed. Roman, the odd kid from next door with eyes too large and a perpetual smirk, had been watching. He was notorious for researching in Grammy's pool, though his true intentions were as murky as the water itself. Roman always prodded, always intruding. "What you looking for?" he'd say, his tone half mocking, half curious. I'd reply curtly, "Fish," and he'd tease that he too was on the hunt. I tried to shoo him away, but he never took no for an answer. His constant presence along the broken fence made it clear he'd heard more than I intended. Before I could shout for help, he slipped back into the water, another unwelcome shadow in my solitary quest. My searches yielded marvels: vibrant starfish, stray jellyfish from the tide, even a baby shark my mom had to rescue with a net. Yet nothing filled the void, the elusive secret both my Grammy and Roman whispered about: fish people. Grammy wasn't always the sharp, quirky storyteller I remembered. Diagnosed with a vicious form of Alzheimer's early on, she spent her later years locked in the haze of forgetfulness. But when her mind cleared, she spun tales of fantastical encounters beneath the waves. I clung to those stories like lifelines, desperate to preserve the memory of the woman I loved even as she slipped away. I recall my 10th birthday clearly. The power failed amid my favorite TV show, and while Grammy slept on the couch, I remembered Mom's storm preparedness. I gathered my flashlight, water bottles, snacks, and her medications, then helped her down to the basement. Usually quiet and distant by then, Grammy suddenly looked at me with a smile, a spark of her old self, and asked, "Can I tell you about the fish people, Charlotte?" I knew then that her stories were more than mere fables. They were echoes of a promise she once made. She told me of a beautiful boy from the sea, Sebastian, who had swept her away with dreams of a secret underwater kingdom. He asked me to be his queen. She'd laugh, recalling that day with a bittersweet glow. We were to run away together, to a world beneath the waves. But as her tale turned darker, her voice wavered. She admitted that day after day, she waited on the shore, even as time and memory betrayed her. "I waited until sunrise became sunset," she whispered, a confession of endless longing. Years later, as middle school dragged on, Roman's antics made me a laughingstock, nicknames and jeers that stung more than the ocean's salt. I clung to the fantasy of finding Sebastian, hoping that if I could rescue him for Grammy, maybe I could mend some of the shattered memories. I even began sending letters into the surf, believing that the sea might one day return her lost love. Then came the day when the past collided violently with the present. I received a terse text from Roman: "I'm not cleaning the pool." Apparently, as per an odd twist in Grammy's will, he was now a co-owner of the house, chosen because he resembled the mythical Sebastian. My parents were furious, but I had long since accepted that some ghosts of the past never truly fade away. That night, as a mild storm raged, I took refuge in the basement of the old house. Memories of Grammy's ceramic fish ornaments and the shells she claimed were gifts from Sebastian haunted me. Lost in thought, I nearly forgot the open gate until a sudden, frantic text shattered the silence. "Shut the gate." "Idiot!" I dashed outside into the howling wind, and that's when I saw it, a strange, ethereal movement beneath the dark surface of my pool. I dropped to my knees and grabbed my old net, eyes straining to follow a mysterious greenish glow beneath the water. Memories of childhood excitement mingled with dread as I waded into the pool. The water rippled, and then I saw him, a young man, early 20s, with a body half merged into something unearthly. His thick, tangled hair clung to his damp skin, interwoven with bits of driftwood and sea glass. When he emerged, his eyes met mine, a painful, silent plea amid blood streaks across the tiles. He bore an injury, a deep gash in what I now recognized as a fin that glimmered with the same shade as my own blood. I signaled him to wait and clumsily scrambled for my flashlight. Amid a wild gust of wind that nearly knocked me under, he pulled me to the surface. With trembling hands, I managed to drag him to Grammy's old bathtub, determined to tend to his wounds. As I bathed him, I recalled Grammy's whispered lore. Children of the sea must be soaked through, or they'll suffocate on land. I treated his bleeding scales with the care of someone trying to save a long-forgotten myth. But even as I asked if his name was Sebastian, he shook his head, clearly offended at my assumption. His silence, punctuated only by glances at my scattered shampoo bottles, deepened the mystery. For hours, we lay there, me recounting stories of Grammy's merman and him listening in silence. I marveled at how his skin shifted in the dim light, the transformation of flesh into scales reminiscent of a slow, creeping virus. His tail, too, was a marvel, a strange hybrid of fin and fused legs. At one point, just as I was losing myself in the fragile hope that he might be the same Sebastian of Grammy's memories, a violent pain gripped me. My lungs constricted, and I found myself gasping for air until the water itself became a savior. I managed to pull myself back to the pool's edge, where Roman reappeared, his eyes wide with alarm as he took in the surreal scene. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded. Between choked breaths, I explained the impossible. Grammy's fish people were real. His disbelief turned to horror as he watched the merman. No, not a merman at all, but something far darker, gradually transform before our eyes. When I discovered that the creature's secret wasn't magic at all, but a parasitic infection twisting human bodies into water-bound abominations, my stomach churned. Roman's transformation began subtly, a trace of green on his cheek, then skin hardening into scales. Desperation replaced our initial fascination as the merman calmly explained that without the sea's embrace, Roman's body would wither beyond repair. In a moment of panic and grim determination, I retrieved a knife. Though every instinct screamed against it, I made a cut, following the creature's cold instructions to allow Roman's body to adapt. The act felt monstrous, and when I saw tiny, worm-like creatures writhing from his wound, I realized we were dealing with something that defied every natural law. As Roman's anguished pleas filled the air, I carried him to the shallow end and watched, numb, as the merman began the final transformation. Roman's body fused, his limbs merging into a tail, his eyes turning vacant. I wanted to scream, to beg for mercy from this relentless horror, but my voice was lost in the chaos. In the days that followed, the house was never the same. Roman's disappearance was chalked up to a drowning, and while my parents planned to rent out the house for summer parties, I couldn't bear the thought of another soul stepping near the cursed pool. I spent every weekend scrubbing away the memory of bloodstains and broken dreams, yet the pool remained a magnet for the curious and the damned. Only recently, as spring break arrived, I returned to inspect the property. The cement patio was wet with rain, and something else. Leaning casually against the pool's edge was a figure whose tail glistened in a sickly green-blue hue. My heart sank as I realized that the nightmare wasn't over. The grotesque parasite that had twisted Roman was still out there, lurking in the shallow water, drawing unsuspecting souls toward its malevolent tide. I stared at the creature as Roman's mocking laughter echoed from beneath the surface, a sound that blended human misery with the call of the deep. I scrambled for my phone to call my parents, but the sound of children's excited footsteps grew louder. One by one, they rushed toward the pool like moths to a flame. Their laughter and splashes soon turned to desperate screams as they vanished beneath the surface. Locked in my room, the world outside was unnaturally silent. I couldn't escape the merman's final words that still rang in my ears. 15 minutes. That's how long it takes for a human to lose their legs. I realized then that the curse was spreading, and with every new victim, the line between myth and reality blurred a little more. I sit here now, trembling in the silence, haunted by the realization that some legends never die, they only change form.